Okay, we are live. Welcome back to the New Year's Indie Book Blitz, everybody. We have a whole new panel of authors, and I've seen your comments over the last three panels. This is the panel about dragons. So, the people have been commenting on the last panels. Do your books have dragons? This is for you. I have 5 guest authors here whose books have dragons. We have Kristen on. We have Tartor, but you want to go by Constance for the live? Oh, you're muted.
I think she's muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Matthew on. We've got N.A. Davenport on. We've got Megan on. So very, very excited. C.H. Smith, do your books have dragons? Raise your hand if your book has dragons.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yes, you came to the right place.
They're on to me. They're on to me.
If you're looking for the steampunk panel, you're in the wrong place. Come back later.
Mine are all about griffins.
Oh.
I mean,
So yeah, we've got a lot of brand new faces. This is a whole new panel. I have never had any of these authors on. We said before we went live that I've known a couple of them for a very long time, ever since before The Vow That Twisted Fate came out in 2021. So meeting people that you've seen on social media is just like a dream come true. Got people joining in the chats and the live on Twitter and on YouTube. Good to have you all here. Just like with everything else in the Blitz, as we go through today on and talk about books and dragons and magic and all of that fun stuff, if you have questions for these authors about their books, about writing, about dragons, about griffins, drop them in the comments and I'll carry them over for the authors to answer. So yeah, why don't we start with Kristen? We'll just start with you and we'll go around the screen. Everybody share a little bit about yourself, what kind of books you write, and how dragons play a role.
All right. So I am Kristen Jeanette. I write mainly young adults, epic fantasy. All of my books, I'm planning on all of them, including dragons in some form or fashion. My original trilogy, or I guess my first trilogy that I wrote, The Lenore Legacy, the dragons are like the main control of magic in that world. And then my next book that comes out in March, Lone Soul, is going to be more urban fantasy, and the main character has a pet dragon. So yeah, dragons will be in there a little bit each day, each book. And a little bit about myself. I am a full-time high school English teacher, a single mom, and so I mainly do my writing in the wee hours of the morning before my little one wakes up. Yeah.
Yes, a pro mom writing right there. You're up in the early morning. I'm up super late at night for the same reason.
I found morning works better for me because then it's like a constrained time, and then I don't end up staying up all night long and then not being able to function the next day in between single parenting and teaching. And I'm like, I need my sleep still. So I found the schedule that works for me. May not be everybody's schedule, but it works for me. So,
and because you have it, we get dragons.
Yes.
That's awesome. All right. So would you like me to call you Constance now that we got your audio back?
Yeah, sorry. Don't know what happened. Something with my audio messed up. But Constance, please.
Okay. So Constance, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your books and how dragons play a role in your books?
Well, I actually only have one book published. One book and one short story published at the moment. But I have been involved in the writing world and the publishing world for close to 15 years now. That's actually the main thing about me. I am freelancer. I work with publishers, with indie authors all the time. I do typesetting, cover design, map design, all of the fun stuff. And then this year I decided to join a contest to write a book. And there was a Asian dragon on the cover of my book. So here I am. I ended up publishing that back in September. And yeah, I do have a lot of short stories written, not published, that have dragons involved in them. And I do have a book planned, like it's already outlined, but I haven't actually started drafting it, that basically combines as many different style dragons as possible into one. So like we have, the European style, the shifters, the steampunk engines, the Asian style, like all of them, as many as I can shove into one book. Basically going to try that out. Yeah.
Yes, bring on the mythological creatures. Love it. Yeah, Matthew. Good to have a guy on the panel too, besides all of us who have been writing dragons today.
Thank you for
You
having
feel
me.
any
Katherine.
pressure?
What's that?
You feel any pressure representing the guys
No,
writing
I'm
dragon
okay.
books?
I know maybe that might sound weird or whatever, but I mean, just first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here amongst all these wonderful authors, and I don't do these that often, so it's just good to be here. And I mean, just to give a tiny intro into me. I mean, I don't want to take too long because people can just, if they want to know more, they can visit my website, which is, up here with my weird invisible white and pink fingers.
It's in the description box.
But my background is like 30 plus years in production. And what I mean by that is things like acting and directing and writing and sound design and video and just a lot of these things that are involved with theater and film in some ways. Now, I want to make it clear that that doesn't mean that I'm a Hollywood professional. That's not what I mean. So I just want to be clear with that. But I put together a lot of different productions before. Some of my productions that I did that were not related to my books were live fight choreography, Star Wars style lightsaber fights, and dramatic productions. And the first one that I did, I titled Balance of Power, and that was in 2006 when I released that. And ironically, that's when YouTube was very new, brand new, actually. And I remember one of my cast members said, "You should put this on YouTube." And I was like, what the hell is that? Like literally nobody thinks about that at this point, that they're like, that's right. At one point, YouTube did not exist. And at that time it did not. So I just said, what the hell? And she said, you should put it on there and blah, 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 blah. Long story short, I post it, go to bed, wake up. And it's like, it doesn't actually send you a message, but it's basically like, you have 11,000 views. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what is going on? Are you friggin' serious? And there's like comments. And now to the viewers now, and probably you ladies, you're like, well, that's not a big deal at all. And I'm like, well, back then when I had no idea that you could comment on a video. I didn't even know what did that mean. I had enough trouble uploading the video, right? Back then. Now it's easy and you get thumbnails and whatever you want. But it was quite a thing, and it kind of created a community. And I'm very blessed that happened during that time, and it led to all sorts of weird connections throughout the world. I met some wonderful people in Germany. I met this gentleman in France. His name, he goes by Irv Plechter of plechterlabs.com. And Irv created one of the first electronic soundboards, a custom soundboard that you could plug into, well, sound and light driver really, that you could plug into a lightsaber prop and, make it glow and go on and off and do the idle hums and the swings and the clashes. So anyways, there's quite a background that I have in production and these kinds of things. So this is fun for me, and storytelling is something I really enjoy.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I love all the different perspectives because we've got reviewers on, we got writers on, we have avid readers on, just the whole spectrum. And then you as the acting and the producing and bringing. So you've literally got a world in your head you have to bring to life on the page, which I'm going to get to a little bit later because it's one of the questions that I have to pull over, I think. So we have N.A. Davenport on as well. It's so nice to meet you. I think C.H. Smith recommended that I look at your page. CH is CH is stole the question about the dragons.
Yeah, so I've always loved dragons ever since like middle school. I got into reading the Dragon Riders of Pern and Aragon and Jeremy Thatcher Dragon Hatcher and like all those awesome books where like kids can bond with dragons and have like a dragon for a friend or a pet or whatever. And that was always my dream. And so when I started getting into writing as an adult, like mostly for my kids, because my oldest is dyslexic, and so he needs really exciting books that are at his reading level. So I was like, well, why don't I just write books about dragons too? So it's sort of like a self-fulfillment kind of thing. I've got a dragon writer series that sort of encapsulates all of those things that I loved about dragons when I was growing up.
Mhm.
So yeah, sorry I'm not as long-winded as
Okay.
about it.
We got a whole panel to get through. We got people commenting on, yeah, lots of dragony things. Lots of love. Megan, so nice to meet you. So nice to reconnect with you after such a
Yes,
long
yes.
time.
Nice to meet everybody else, of course. My name's Megan, and I have loved dragons since I was very little. My mom thought I was crazy for continuing to love dragons into my adult life. So now my book proves that dragons are not just for kids.
Right.
My genre is adult fantasy romance, kind of adventure-y kind of stuff. So a little bit just above the young adult genre, kind of new adult fantasy is I think what they like to call it now, and so I roll with that. But my love for dragons is like always been kind of rooted into me. It's just dragons have always called to me. I feel like they're guardians, protectors. So, I mean, they've just been inspiring to me my entire life.
Yeah. It is so nice to see such a broad variety of age ranges and subcategories represented here too. Because I think nowadays dragon romance is trending a lot, but then we've also got the YA with dragons and the epics and everything else. And
I think the YA, I mean, when I was younger, those were my favorite to read for the longest time. So that, I mean, definitely draws in, you know, the right type of like the storylines and, you know, the character arcs and things like that most people really like in fantasy with dragons in it. My dragons are a little bit unique just because I don't go with the whole dragon rider aspect. My dragons don't bond with humans. They're actually shapeshifters, so they can turn into humans.
mhm. Oh, yeah, I agree with this, Luna. I love seeing dragons being portrayed as something other than villains.
Oh, she'll love my
Absolutely.
story.
Yes, yes. And I don't know. I cameo dragons. I like dragons, but I like them more in like the old Record of Lodoss War way, which is that old anime that I watched. I'm really aging myself here, but where the dragons are like pretty much mythological god figures. They show up for a couple scenes and that's it. Like, okay, you know they're out there somewhere. So I'm leaving most of the dragon talk today to you experts who put your dragons front and center in your work. So yeah, we are going to get into a little bit about how you've decided to portray your dragons. I don't know if any of you have ever met Dara Steffen, who wrote Rise of the Dragon Queen, but she's a paleontologist, and one of the things that she had brought up on a prior panel was wanting to make scientifically feasible dragons, if that makes sense, and not just the fantasy aspect. And I know that, Constance, you mentioned the Asian dragon. So what kind of dragons are you featuring in your books? Do you lean into that medieval style, the Asian style, more of the, if these were living creatures, how would this work? Like, what goes into planning that for your books?
Yeah, well, for
I'm
me,
gonna go actually.
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So for me, I kind of lean that way a little bit myself, as having them more feasible creatures. One of the characters in my dragon series is actually like a biology teacher. He ended up in this world. And so he likes to make observations about the dragons, about like how their bodies work and how they're able to fly and things like that. But there is a little bit of magic mixed in with that too, which makes it sort of mysterious. Like they're able to have elemental powers and stuff. But I like bringing in things like, well, yeah, they do have to have a keel so that they have their flight muscles so that they can lift themselves into the air and that kind of thing. And I look at like dinosaur skeletons and see like how would their bones work together and how would their muscles attach and that kind of thing as well. So it's sort of a mixture of the two.
I super hyper resonate with that. And I'll just try to quickly say, like, I try to incorporate as much physics and science into my stories without it bogging you down in that. And what I mean, for just a short example, is gravity immediately plays a huge concern. You quickly, without giving spoilers or anything to my books, whatever, you quickly learn that there was once a dragon who's only by name because she's dead at this point in the from the beginning, fell from a great height. And, as the saying goes, it's not so much the fall that kills, it's the collision with the ground. And in this case, this is how that dragon died. And it is, of course, presented as not a moment of comedy where they can say, ha, 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 be careful if you pass out during flight. It's more like, no, she was killed in battle, but really she was hexed in the mind, and that, paralyzed her, and then she just plummeted and died. And this is not a good way to go as a dragon. And therefore all the other characters are like, we pay homage not only to that heroine, but watch out. Like, it's not a joke. While you're up there in the air, you could very well be knocked unconscious and fall and so on. So anyway.
Yeah, that's really,
I was
really great.
I was actually going to say that I go in the opposite direction with, I have the long, again, I'm going with the Asian style dragons, no wings. Nobody questions why they can fly. My dragons are actually, there was a comment earlier how, we shouldn't represent dragons as villains. The dragons in my story are rain bringers. They are the ones who help support an entire culture. They're the ones who give rain to the people. So my story actually starts off with the last dragon died, and there hasn't been any rain for 50 years. So we need to bring back the dragons because we need rain, and nobody questions it. Nobody wonders. And I have the dragon's hair creates the clouds, and the dragon's horns bring the lightning, and it's all about the mythological aspect and the magical aspect of it, rather than, I love the idea of, going into how does it fly, how does the world get affected by it, but it's less of that and more of the, I don't know, the dreamy aspect of dragons, the stuff that I grew up as a child, when I was reading about dragons, it's in the mist, you don't know all the details about them, but what details you do know, they hit you, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
How about
makes
you,
sense.
Megan?
I am a very scientific person and very nature loving. So I usually try to have some sort of a scientific explanation for how they do stuff with their magic and things like that. But the dragons in my world do have that magical aspect to them too, just because it's fantasy. So I had to throw that in there somehow. But so they're from a magical world, but there's also a realistic aspect to it. There's a portal. So there's a link between our real life world now to their world that they live in. So there's kind of a connection that way of a realist, kind of a way to make a realistic connection to the magical world of Angaleth and then our world here on Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kristen, you're up.
Okay. So with my dragons, my main inspiration for the dragons in the Lenore Legacy comes from Dragonheart, the movie. That is my headcanon for what the dragons in my book look like, except they're different colors, and based on the color of their scales determines the strength of their magic within the world. So the black dragons have stronger magic, as do the white dragons. And so there's that binary situation going on, but then there are also some blue dragons and a purple dragon and random other colors sprinkled in for that one. And then when it comes to the urban fantasy I have coming out, and she has her pet dragon Pete, it's just a small pet dragon. I was kind of like a dog, but a dragon. So and then I'm working on a series of classical retellings that will also include dragons. And the one I'm currently working on involves shape-shifting dragons, which again, the dragons from Dragonheart are just kind of my headcanon of what they should look like. So, but mine do have feathers on their wings. Was the one difference I made, because I was if they fly, they have to have feathers on their wings. So not scientific, but just this is what my brain envisioned, and that's what I want them to look like. So that's how they work.
I love it.
That's the great
comment.
thing about dragons is you can envision them any way you want.
Exactly.
And we got this comment from CH that I think is a really good point about what you just said, Kristen, that you always think medieval dragons unless it looks different on the cover. So that makes me wonder, do you have your books? Do you have the dragon like on your cover?
Oh yeah.
I don't have the dragon on my cover.
There's the dragons.
I have
I should-
my print version is in work, but yeah, this is
Matthew's making the sacrifice.
Yeah,
Ah.
they're hard
Mine's
to see.
all the
probably.
way back there. So
Yeah, I do actually have some dragons on my book. It's funny, when I first released the first book, which is behind my head, so you can't really see it. Some people were like, "There's no dragons on your book" and stuff like that, and I was like, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Look closer." And not many people realized it, but it was purposely done. I made it where the black dragons are in the background, in the shadows of book one. But then you start to see them in book, whoops, my hand's pointing the wrong way, although you can't see my finger anyway. Book two on this side here, they're in the background again, but this time you can see them. And then in three, they're in your face, like they're right into the logo. They're almost taking over the title and the three. And that's by design. I pretty much did all my own covers for the most part.
Wow.
And so some people might look at it and say, well, I don't understand. I don't like this. And that's fine. Like, I'm not going to tell anyone what they should or should not either do or think when it comes, excuse me, to my covers. But I'm purposefully trying to use the covers to tell a story of their own. And I'm not trying to tell the story of the actual books. But when you put them all side by side one day, not that anyone will ever own all of them, but we'll see. But some people might reflect and be like,
Think like that.
oh my God, I can't believe it. I didn't realize this whole time that he was basically giving us a lot of hints all along the way. And I had no idea. And I'll be like, that's fine. That was part of the part by design, you know?
Yeah. I love. Oh, you got your book. I see
yeah,
that.
well, this is actually book two. So the dragons are on the shield, and so this one's fractured. So the shield is fractured, but the dragons are just on the shield because they were the ones that created magic swords within the world, and so they're just kind of right there.
That's cool. I like it.
Yeah. I love the different style. And again, the styles are always different depending on your audience too. Because you want your book to stand out, you want to grab attention, but you also want to fit in wherever the audience is. It always amazes me how many readers do not pick up on foreshadowing. Well, I say this as a reader. I am an avid reader. I've read so much that I almost always guess how books are going to end, and I'm getting really tired of it. So actually, part of the reason a book rating for me goes from a 4 to a 5 is when I can't guess how it is going to end by the end of chapter 2 or 3. Like, please give me something I don't know the ending of. Or
that's one of my personal favorite things, Katherine, is to do that. And I mean, I don't know how many of all of us are familiar with this term in the specificity of what it means, but red herrings. Red herrings are fantastic to drop onto not only onto the audience or the readers, but the characters too. So, that's great. Like with this person's comment. So exactly, like that's one of my favorite things to do. And there's one particular line that one of my characters, Starsha, or Starsha, I don't know. It depends on how people will want to pronounce her name. But she's an oceanic dragon, and she has this one line that later echoes a little bit into all the other books. And she's like, just because you do not see something doesn't mean it isn't there. And then this whole kind of thematic underpinning echoes throughout the whole series. And it is not only for the characters, but for the readers and the audience as well. Just because you don't see it right away doesn't mean it wasn't always there. Some people have actually now told me, Matthew, when I first read your first book, I was like, okay, whatever, dragons, blah, blah, blah. Then I went back and started looking at some of the things that echo into 2. And they're like, now I'm excited for 3, because a lot of people haven't even read it yet. I mean, obviously, how could they? I just released it. But the point is, they're like, what are you doing? I feel like you're doing something, but I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, just wait.
You got to read the whole thing.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, like,
CH.
right? If it was predictable, then it kind of takes away from it. You're right, Catherine. It's one of the biggest
Yeah.
letdowns when you see everything coming and you predict it, and then at the end it comes and you're like, damn, right? You're like, I
Yeah.
would love to have been punched in the face with a surprise that was relevant and cool, and that you were like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, don't you guys love that? Right? When that happens.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
it's one of my
CH is right.
But
There are occasions where
but
you're going
there-
to have a dark. And on the dark ones, you know, like I know CH is not right. He also writes some dragons, which is probably why he's tuning in. His first book made me weep for half an hour. And I don't cry when I read books. It is so rare. I'm an editor for a living, and maybe that's part of it. I'm just numb to books
I understand.
after 10 years of reading other people's books all day
Yeah.
long, every day. But when I got to The Princess Knight is his, and I read the end, I just wept. My husband was like, did someone die?
Right.
He died. I was like,
Yes.
my soul died.
Yeah.
But you know, like, even though you know that it's going to be painful, for some reason you still want to read it. It's like, I don't know. I feel like when an author tells me up front that something like, hey, this isn't going to have a happy ending, then I'm like, well, I'm going to read it anyway for some
Right.
reason.
I mean, right, Catherine, who can forget? And I know it's most notable from PJ and NLC's wonderful movies, Lord of the Rings. However, of course, Tolkien wrote it first. But the point is, right at the volcano, Frodo's like, I can't do it anymore. And he collapses. And then, of course, Sam's like, well, I can't carry it for you, but I can't carry you. And you're like, you know. And then there's the steps, then picking it up, the dramatic, beautiful music, right? And then climbing this like it's crazy. And you go like, how can this silly little fantasy with a bunch of furry-footed little goobers make me cry? And I'm like, that's dramatic power. That's how storytelling is meant to be, right? If you didn't do that, pardon my French, you up, right? It's like you are meant to do this with your storytelling. If you're not moving your audience, if you're not pissing them off, if you're not making them, you know, be like, oh, it's such a beautiful love story. If you're not doing that, then what are you doing? What are you doing?
So here's a good one for the whole panel. And I'm actually going to go in reverse order this time. I think, Megan, I'm going to let you start with this one. Because your book's coming out, and I know how hard you've poured into it. I think there's this misconception that when you get to a certain level as a writer, you don't run into the imposter syndrome super, super bad.
I mean, I think the reason it's taken me so long is because some of that does happen, but mostly for me, life has just been crazy. My advice for John would be to just do it anyway and just stick to it. Do it when you have whenever you can. Keep your passion alive. Take breaks if you need breaks. And just, you know, if you have a passion for creating something, do it. Don't let the fear of not making money off of it hold you back from it.
Absolutely.
And don't listen to the naysayers.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Good
because there
advice,
are a lot of
Ellen.
those, and they will discourage you a lot. And
great advice,
you just
Megan.
kind of gotta like yeah, you can take it in one ear, out the other, and then you know, be like, okay, noted, and then move on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anna, how have you overcome sort of that imposter syndrome goal to get your books out?
You know, I think friends help. But I mean, a lot of us are introverts, so not all of us have a lot of that like support that we would like to have. So I feel like I feel my love for dragons has kind of just driven me to keep with it. And I did publish the book once before, and I learned a lot from that. I wasn't ready. So, I mean, you can learn from your own mistakes, and, you know, it's never the end. You can always fix it, rewrite it, relaunch it. And that's what I did with this one. So it's been many years in the making, but it's definitely a lot more, it makes me a lot more proud to share it now. And I feel like I'm a lot more experienced as an author and a writer. Getting together with peers, like a panel like this, where all of us love dragons and we all share the same passion for writing about them. Talking to people that share the same dreams as you is really helpful too when you're trying to work on a project that takes all of your heart out of it.
For certain.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
And N.A., how about you? I know you were going to say something too.
Yeah, I think that it's very valuable to have that passion, and that's what keeps you going, even when everything else seems like it's failing, right? But I also think that if I want my books to succeed, I need to treat them professionally as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get criticism from other people, if it's helpful criticism, I try to listen to it without feeling attacked or emotional about it. I try to take a step back and see, is what they're saying valid? Are my covers not right? Is the story not right? Is my writing, a little bit sloppy or something? And if those things need to be fixed, they need to be fixed. And I can have as much passion as I want, but if I want to get really good sales, I need to give people something that they deserve to have, which is a good product, a good story that they can enjoy, and a book that looks good when they buy it, and that kind of thing. If everything on that end looks good and you're still not getting sales, maybe you need to delve into advertising. Learn how that works, learn how the Amazon ads work, learn how Facebook ads work, get a really nice website up and collect an email list so that people who are your fans can get updates when you have new releases, because otherwise they're going to buy one book and they're going to be like, oh, that was great. And then they're never going to know when your next book comes out because you haven't told them. So it's a lot more than just having a passion for writing. If you want to be a successful author, in my opinion, you have to also be a publisher for yourself, unless you're going traditional, of course. And in that case, but that's a whole other path to go down.
Yeah, I think that's a great delineation, that sometimes we let the marketing and the business keep us from completing step one, which is just the writing, and it's creative. And they're two separate things. One is pouring yourself on the page. The other is trying to sell it as a product, as a business.
Yeah, and the passion is good fuel for that step one, which is the writing. Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to keep with it, right? But all the other stuff on top of it, that is just as important. And if you're going to be a good self-published author, you need to study that and put effort into that as well, which is the hard part, I think, for many of us.
Yeah.
And even trad. If you're going to go trad, you're still going to be stuck with a lot of your own marketing, as we've discussed on other panels. We had Pandora Blake on.
Yeah.
And she's a #1 New York Times bestseller, trad published author, was the author of the new Buffy the Next Generation series of books. And even she was saying she has to do marketing. Like, you don't get out of it just because you're with a big publisher. Correct. Or like she's had works published with Tor and some other places. It's like, you don't get out of it just because you landed one. So either way, try to separate that out. Don't get overwhelmed by what's not here. You can't market a blank page and you can't edit a blank page to start with the blank page. Kristen, how about you? What do you think?
When it comes to like I mentioned, I'm a high school English teacher. So I help students with overcoming some of those writing blocks and figuring out what should I say? How should this work and everything? And so when I publish, I remind myself that when people comment on things, it's no different than when I'm commenting on a student's essay, that they're trying to be helpful. Sometimes it doesn't feel helpful based on what they might say, but usually it comes from a good place of trying to be helpful. And so there's that, as well as finding your writing community has been super important for me. Finding a group of people, even if you don't write in the same genre, being able to chat with other writers and just talk about the different things that have helped them with marketing, or if you get stuck somewhere, having somebody that you can brainstorm with. I've got a good friend that's a really good critique partner, and she, her most constant question for me is, okay, but why? And so it really makes me think of, okay, that was a cool idea, but how does it fit in the whole story? And so she really helped strengthen my overall plot in the Lenore Legacy. And so just finding your people, finding your group, finding your community has helped significantly for me.
I 100% agree. And I think it's interesting just how Krista was saying you improve. I know when I put out my debut, which is totally different, you can edit, you can publish for other people, but when you put out your own book, you're starting from scratch like everybody else. And when I put out my first debut, Kristen reviewed my book, and there were so many nuggets in there and so many other things from other readers that I've been able to turn around and start implementing in new books. And it's like, it's been next year will be 3 years since it's come out. And to watch how much your writing grows if you're able to take the feedback from your readers on here's what really worked great, here's what didn't work great, and not necessarily go back and unpublish and redo that book. The book is out, the book is the world's, let it go. And in future books, you improve, you keep going, you keep writing your craft. That's a valuable part of the community. And so you can take that positive, you can take the constructive criticism and build that up. Sure. Constance, you have anything else you would add onto that?
I just want to say that I think that there's a very fine line between writing as a passion and writing for money.
Oh, yes.
Because you can write a book that, checks off all the tropes, follows all the genre expectations, and make millions, but not enjoy writing it. Or on the opposite direction, you can write a book that, you're not even sure what genre it is, but you absolutely love writing it. I just think at the end of the day, focus on an audience of one. So I used to do branding for years. I've been doing that. And that's what I've told all my clients before. It's you're not trying to reach everybody. No, there is nothing that absolutely everybody is going to love. Like nothing like that exists. So instead of trying to make something that everybody loves, make something that you love, or make something that, your spouse, your sister, your best friend, something that one person loves. And if you love it, if that one person loves it, then that's enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If it makes money, obviously that's a plus, but
always a plus.
You can dabble. You don't have to have it 100% figured out. Because I started, when I put mine out, I was like, do I want to become a full-time author? Is this something I really want to do? Do I want to stay a pitch coach, helping other people get published with Trad and helping people publish their books and be an editor? And after a couple of years, I decided real quick, I was like, you know what? If I have to write on demand, my heart is not there. My passion is not there. And I've pulled back, but I love my job. I love editing. I was like, that's where I want to make my money, helping other authors reach their goal. When I write, it's like you said, Constance, it's to put out a story that I love, that I want to tell. If even one person's like, they see me and I'm heard, then that's great. And if I don't make money, that's fine. But there are authors, like you said, who want to go into this for a business. And there's a whole different mindset and approach to take with that. You don't want to just throw out a book and then be gone 2 years if you're going to try to make a business at this. So, yeah. We've gotten some great... Do you have any attack geese?
What the?
Attack.
Well, maybe my dragonflies would kind of figure into that, but no geese. What?
My books have falcons.
I live in Canada. We have enough geese here. I don't need any in my book. Please no.
Those Canadian geese, Eve?
They hiss at you.
They are evil. We call them chicken cobras here. Or cobra
Chicken
cobra. Cobra chicken, sorry. They
Cobra
are
chicken.
evil.
Cobra Commander.
Evil.
I love it.
No, I'm not putting any in my books. If I do that, it'll be like the main villain antagonist, ruler of the evil.
The weregeese. Here you go, Constance. The weregeese ruler goes up against the dragons.
So you basically make them hydras, right, Constance?
I'm sorry?
You'd make them into hydras, the multi-headed snakes? Never mind. It wasn't funny.
No. You're going to be giving me nightmares over here, just that
The Dark Fantasy panel was an hour ago, so we're just moving on into brighter and better times. But no, seriously, you guys, this has been great. This has been such a great panel. I do want to ask before we hop off, what you guys have coming out in 2024. I've got the links to all of these authors in the description box for people to follow and try out their books. But what's something we could keep an eye on for you? Kristen, why don't you start us off?
Right. So my urban fantasy Lone Soul, which is a planned duology, will be coming out in March. And hopefully I will get the loose Romeo and Juliet retelling ready for a fall release in 2024. That one has been super fun to write. But Lone Soul is definitely ready for publishing on March 7th. The pre-order is up, so you can pre-order the ebook of that if you're interested.
Awesome.
Yay. Pre-orders help indie authors a lot, by the way. If you're an indie reader and you're like, I sort of want to get it, especially if it's an Amazon one, because if for any reason Amazon drops the price or Kristen lowers the price, it will automatically lower your price too. I say as a reader, I'm like, go do the thing. Do it early so you can get all this. Because sometimes Amazon will drop our prices and we won't know they're going to drop them. And they're like, hey, your book's 75 cents, but I still get all the royalties for it. So I don't know. They're just like, yay.
Great.
How about you? What's coming in 2024?
So I only have plans at the moment, but actually my first plan out the gate is actually sci-fi. No dragons in this one. I'm planning on getting it out. It's dystopian sci-fi by March. But the dragon story that I mentioned before that I have the outline done for, my goal is to get that out to our beta readers in the summer. But yeah, I don't really go like create goals for the writing because as I mentioned earlier, I'm a write for fun. I don't do consistent writing, so if I get it out, that's a huge plus. If I don't,
You're like, whatever it is, it is. But no sci-fi dragons, space dragons.
No. I very recently published Space Mermaids, so
Ooh.
don't tempt me with the space dragons. Like, the wheel spinning. The wheel just started being horrible.
And
Don't
then
give
when
her
we
any
come back
ideas,
to the
Katherine.
panel next year, Constance, next year's panel, you can tell us how that turns out.
Let's see.
Megan, how about you? What's going on in 2024?
I am working on book 2. I just released Angelet's Air, book 1, just this last September. So I'm kind of working on promoting that currently. Hopefully by the end of 2024, I'll have book 2 ready for editing and hopefully for release in the end of the year or maybe the beginning of the following year, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Woo! Yay! Very excited. NA, what's coming up with you?
Okay. Well, I've got another book in my Dragon series. It's going to be coming out. It's not up for pre-order yet. I've only got it about 30% drafted right now, but it should be coming out about mid-year. And then another book I have a non-Dragon series as well, The Fairies of Titania, and there should be another one of those coming out by the end of the year.
Yay! And Matthew, you are such a busy person. What have you got going on next year?
First of all, I would just try to say, just once again, thanks for having me here, and it's been a pleasure. And if people have any questions or want to know more, it's probably best they just visit the website because that way they can. There's so many free materials there, like they can watch videos, get kind of a behind the scenes of like why did I do this, and like tell me something about the characters and like how does it fit in as a hero's journey and all this kind of stuff. And so I put a lot of efforts into things, but I just launched Diamond Dragons 3, the print versions of it, the hardcover and the paperback, over the winter solstice. So that was on the 21st. And the reason that I did this with the solstices is this is not a fluke. All of my books are released on the solstices. Summer solstice is digital and the winter is the print versions. And not only is that for the discipline and consistency that I have to schedule myself to do it right, but in the storytelling, the characters speak of these celestial events. They talk about a solstice and an equinox and how does this figure into the storytelling. Sure, you'll have to find out as a reader, but it was just another tidbit that where I could kind of be like, hey, wouldn't that be cool not only to release on the solstices or over them or whatnot, but that because it's part of the storytelling, it's an easy way for people to say, gee, I wonder when this idiot's next book is going to come out, and it's, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I place on my website a sort of countdown timer, which is of course locked to the next solstice. So you'll see, I don't know, the next solstice is in 160 days and something or whatever. So people can visit the website, which is, of course, diamond-dragons.com. And it's all me, for the most part. I do all the outlining, writing, editing, all types, by the way, of editing. The illustrations, for the most part, are all my work. The formatting, the cover designs, the videos, it's too much.
Yeah. It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining everybody in the chats. We've had so many people on YouTube and on Twitter. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of the Blitz videos. We're going to be doing them all weekend long through January. There are over 15 panels, over 100 authors across all these different genres, and not just fantasy, as much as we love dragons. There's sci-fi and there's mystery and there's a horror one tomorrow night too. So we'd love to have you guys tune in and meet some more authors. Yeah, Luna, it's great to see you. Thank you all so much for joining, especially right here on the
Thanks for
holiday
coming,
weekend.
everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks you.
As my dragons would say, Chiong, which is basically thank you.
Yes, Cheong. Thank
Cheong.
you. Bye, everybody.